Okay, there we go. Welcome to the Monday edition of the Erskin Music Show. Wow, what a difference a day can make. Yesterday I was absolutely exhausted. I know now why the Lord says we need a day of rest, because when you're going all the time, that does not make for a very happy or polite dad. And I think my kids and family could figure out yesterday that I was a little frazzled. So I took two, not one, but two naps yesterday. And I had a good night of sleep. So I'm all over today. I'm ready. Miss Post, if you're out there, Mike Horner, that would be my AP English teacher, and that would be my AP History teacher, and others along the way. I will demonstrate today whether or not you taught me how to read, or if it was all a myth and you just passed by and it was a social experiment that got me through school. But anyway, happy to be here at the Monday edition of the Erskin Music Show. We want to begin with scripture for the day. And for those of you that are joining from the Facebook Live audience, thank you so much for your time, your consideration, and your snarky comments. For those of you who are joining from YouTube Live, which tends to be a little bit more of an international audience, thank you guys for joining. I don't know what time zone you're in or what time of day it is. So if it's good morning for you, if it's good night to you, then thank you for your time spent with the Erskin Music Show. All of your snarky comments are welcome. As you saw for the topics today, we're going to be getting into some Candace Owens talk. We're going to be getting into some Drew Brees talk. And we're going to be getting into some Black Lives Matter. Hashtag, or whatever that is. So let's begin with a verse of scripture for the day. This comes from the book of James. And it tells us, pure and undefiled religion before God the Father is this: to look after orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself unstained from the world. That's James 1:27. And I would just say to all of those that are out there, give me that old time religion. People have been asking, what are we supposed to be doing in these days that seem so fraught with disaster? We can't say this and we can't say that. And it seems like when we do this, there's a reaction against that. And, folks, give me that old time religion. So anyway, the whole justice issue is not something that is new. I don't know why we're, getting in a state of confusion about this. There's always been, Jesus said, you're going to always have poor people among you. You're going to always have people who are in need of justice. And I'm going to post a video, I think, later on today of the Bible Project video on social justice. If you've not seen that before, tremendous look at our responsibility as believers who have been redeemed to engage in a culture and to be part of the solution of change. Because why? Because God has changed us. And he has put a new heart within us that is not one that oppresses people or takes advantage of people, but is one that reaches to people in their sense of need. Because after all, that's what God did to us. We were desperately in need of salvation, and he came and rescued us. All right. For those of you that are saying good morning, thank you guys. Thank you guys. Hello. Let's get started here. We obviously have kids that are watching, so I'll be extremely polite today. And I was telling some people this weekend, to know that there's kids that are watching this show and a part of this show makes me all that much more accountable. No bad words. Erskine, no bad words, no bad behavior. The kids are watching you, and after made in the image of God, they're looking for me to do my incredible dance moves at some point on this show. And yes, that's going to happen at some point. Maybe not today, but you just keep watching. Now, I wanted to make an announcement before we begin today to say this is the last full week of the Erskine Music Show. Why do I say it? And why do I say it like that? Because it's the last full week. But also, I wanted to let you know that it being the last full week, Monday through Friday, this show format, and then Monday through Wednesday next week, and then we're going to be going out west toward Colorado, visiting some ministry associates and friends, and also family. So looking forward to that trip out there. And so we're going to be having a weekly show at that point, unless there's going to be various points in the summer where I'm going to be doing a camp edition, which is going to be a really short, bring some kids on from camp director. We'll talk a little bit about camp and what we've been learning each day. And so it'll be kind of the summer fun edition of the Erskin Music Show. Nothing too serious there, but just a lot of fun as far as that's concerned. So this full week, Monday through Friday. Next week, we'll be going Monday through Wednesday, and then we're going to take some time off to do the weekly edition. So thank you guys for joining. Let's get into some topics and figure out if Erskin can even read. I've got my notes up today. So let's start with Candace Owens. I became America's second favorite black friend, best black friend. White America was looking for somebody that they could turn to, somebody they could trust, somebody that has validity and credibility. Let's get somebody that's black and get them to speak. And if they say what it is that I think, then they could be my best friend. And man, I think that's how Candace Owens is used most of the time. But Candace Owens posted a video, 18-minute rant last week on George Floyd, occasioned at the same time of the memorial service of George Floyd. probably should slow down talking. I get so excited about this. But it was occasioned at the same time as the memorial service for George Floyd in memory of his um, life. Now, we all saw the video. If you haven't seen the video, don't watch the video. It's that bad. But for those who saw the video and know that that galvanized a movement that is now continuing to hopefully exist in the form of peaceful protest, you recognize how impactful that was. Nobody wanted to saint George Floyd. Nobody wanted to inaugurate him as the second coming of Jesus, but it was a video that we saw in its raw form and its raw footage of a man being killed in front of our eyes. Candace Owens used that occasion last week as an opportunity to talk about what a scumbag George Floyd was and why he should be nobody's hero, virtue signaling to all of her white conservative audience that listens to her by and large, that he was no one that we should pay attention to, no one who has anything to do with social change or a movement that she would want to be a part of. Black Lives Matter. She hates those guys. And continued in her 18-minute rant talking about the fact that he had supposedly tried to rehabilitate his life when there's many people, Lecrae, Stephen Jackson, other notable people who talked about the life change that had taken place. Not saying that he was perfect at all, but that he had encountered Jesus and that he was trying to reform his life. So she took that also as an occasion to besmirch in front of all of America, but also in front of his wife, in front of his family, and in front of his 6-year-old daughter, just how awful he was. I immediately cried foul on that. So here, as a Christian, I want to come out on this show and just tell you that the first thing that I did was I went to social media as best I could to try to find a way that I could connect with Candace Owens. And so I reached out to her personally to try to see if I could gain an audience with her to express some of my concerns. And those concerns would have been the same thing as, I think maybe as an articulate young Black woman, you could have maybe stated your case and your points in a different way, in a different setting, at a different time, and you would have done more to purposely set the conversation forward than what you did sending it backwards. And so I waited for a response and waited. And obviously, with the social media frenzy that was going on, guys, I was literally spending about 4 to 6 hours a day in conversations with people last week, Monday through Saturday, and then on Sunday morning, yesterday, in conversations with churches out in Florida and just continuing conversations with them. And so I was exhausted. So I know with everything that's going on, Candace Owens' immense popularity, at some point she may run for president of the United States. She probably didn't get a chance to read it. And I'm going to just fairly come out and say that she probably didn't get a chance to read it, because I'm going to appeal to her better angels and say that if she would have read my response to her as gracious as I could possibly be, hopefully she would have had the opportunity to respond to that. We would have talked things through and we would have amicably come to some way of addressing some of the concerns that I had for her. I'm going to just give her that as a Christian and just assume the best of her in this scenario. But the reason why I bring this up today is because Candace Owens is a political conservative. I'm conservative. I'm not a politician. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. But as it comes to the voting, like Kanye said, I'm a Christian everything. So I'm a Christian dad. I'm a Christian guy that's running up and down the street. I'm a Christian, shopper at Walmart or wherever I choose to shop. I'm a Christian voter. I mean, it spans through everything that I do. And so I tend to be on the conservative side as well. But one of the things that is a tactic that has been used so often in situations like this is what I would consider to be, and here's the category, black on black crime. What do I mean by that? Black on black crime. And hopefully, if Candace Owens has not seen my video yet of my response to her, then hopefully she'll get a chance to see it and we'll have a wonderful conversation at some point. Maybe we will, maybe we won't, but that's not the point here. What the point is that one of the tactics that's often been used as a diversionary tactic for people who don't want to have a continued and sustained conversation about race and the race relations that we have in our country. And maybe I'll deal with the term race because that's really an unbiblical term, but we'll deal with that at another time, another place. But sustained conversations about race is to take two people who perhaps by visuals should agree with one another. Candace Owens, she's black. Erskin, he's black. Referentially so, Big Head even back there is black. The t-shirts are even black. Ruby and Scooby. Actually, Scooby is gray. Ruby is black. So referentially, Candace Owens is black. I'm black. Black Lives Matter, they're black. And so let's clump them all together in the same group and let's have them be representative of a movement. But when Candace Owens steps out of that, which she is largely known for a movement known as Blexit, which is the black exit from the Democratic Party, then she's an outlier. And she's a voice that white America wants to listen to because she's not like the rest of those guys over there. So too, myself, who find myself largely in predominantly white settings, white churches, white institutions, white schools. I don't mind. I go play Erskine music for everybody. You guys know that. I love everybody out there. And I'm honored when you guys invite me to be a part of what it is that you're doing, even if I'm just there to be in attendance. It doesn't matter to me. I love everybody. I love you guys. But largely that's the setting where I find myself. So to find the two of us at odds with one another, there's some people who would take a unique, sinister sense of enjoyment of the fact that there's two black people who supposedly should be on the same side who are arguing against one another. To me, I see that as the epitome of counterproductivity. Why? Because Candace Owens is a very articulate lady. She's very profound in some of the things that she has done. And let me just read a little bit. And here's why my English teachers should be proud of me. I actually learned how to read. And here's, like the hit, here it goes. Candace Owens Farmer, born April 9th, 1989, is, as I said before, an American conservative and political activist. She is known for her pro-Trump position. Man, I'm getting so many messages this morning. Thank you. Colin Kaepernick? Oh, no, he's not getting in contact with me. Guys, I'm trying to do a show right now. Can we? All right. All right. We'll talk later. Anyway, known as a political conservative, she is known for her pro-Trump activism, which you guys know her very well from. Some of the border stuff that she did, she was reporting and on behalf of Trump and the whole Build the Wall thing, and that's there for record. 2016, after being initially critical of Trump at the beginning, she became a Republican Party stalwart. Switched her criticism around from President Trump to identifying what many people would believe, or what she believes to be the actual scourge of the black community, which is Black Lives Matter and the Democratic Party, in which she has trained a lot of her discussion, a lot of her videos toward what she believes to be the scourge of the black community. She worked as a political conservative advocate during the Trump administration, and during this time as the Trump administration, Point USA between 2017 and 2019 as their communications director. And it goes on and on and on and talks about her life. And here's what I want to say. Candace Owens, if you're listening to this, Candace Owens' mama, if you're listening to this, I'll talk to your mama and tell your mama, Candace Owens, that you did a great job raising that lady. She is articulate. She is well respected. She is someone in which she has a lot of qualities that my daughter, who is 12 years old, I would want to model you, Candace Owens. I think that at times, perhaps you can be misunderstood because of the various groups that are wanting to use your voice to extend their movement. But I want to just simply say this. There's going to be no black on black crime. My video that was asking politely, and there were some tone police that got after me a little bit, but I was asking politely that she reconsider her video, the 6-minute video that I posted in response to her. But there will be no black on black crime here, because I see that as the height of counterproductivity. For those who are out there who are a positive force in the community, who are a positive voice for change, who are talking about things that actually impact the black community positively, Candace Owens, I think, could be numbered in that category. And I think she has done some tremendous things. Some of her ideas and some of her ideology could be used in a lot of settings to bring balance to the discussion. We're going to talk about Black Lives Matter in just a second. That's part of our discussion. But for Candace Owens and anybody out there who's a proponent of Candace Owens, I do want to acknowledge this, and let me be clear about this. Candace Owens has not, to my knowledge, publicly stated that she is a professing believer in Jesus Christ. Now, does she have to do that? I mean, her political aspirations and those things may not make it possible for her to be able to do that. But she is very vocal in what it is that she says. And I believe that she, under the First Amendment, has the freedom to say whatever she wants to say. And I think she's taken every opportunity to speak very clearly and articulately and intelligently about what it is that she believes and what it is that she does not believe. I'm lacking to find a statement where she has come out ardently in support of Jesus Christ. And so I just submit that to simply say that anytime there's an activist, even people that I respect and admire on the radio who have political views that are similar to my own, I have to ultimately ask the question, what is their understanding and their belief and their response to Christianity and biblical Christianity? Candace Owens supports the LGBT in some regards, and she has not always come out in support of things that I would consider matter in reference to social issues. And so I'm not going to try to micromanage Candace Owen. That was a one-off, I would imagine, unless Candace Owen wants to come on the show and have a conversation with me. I am not going to be used as a political football or anybody's football to be now. I'm going to gain my popularity by being the critic of Candace Owen. I just want to tell you guys, Erskin is not going to be used that way. There are some people who are extremely excited about the fact that I criticize somebody that they would criticize. And so I got probably about 40 new friend requests on Facebook this last weekend, and just shows you the power of how people can sometimes use social media to their advantage when it's something that is divisive. I'm not going to be used as a tool for division on this show, and you guys just need to understand that that's not how I roll. All right, a couple of comments that are out there. Cool. Yep. Thank you. This is my good friends Terry and Barbie Franklin. Love you guys and love your ministry and what it is that you guys are doing. Let's get to the next topic here on the Erskin Music Show. Ooh, got that little punch sound there. Little black on black crime. Not going to happen on this show. Let's get to some more topics this morning. Let's deal with Drew Brees. Drew Brees is in the news recently because he came out with a statement about the flag. And let me just talk a little bit about Drew Brees before I start reading about Drew Brees. Drew Brees has always been one of my favorite football players. Undersized a little bit, and in many regards is the underdog who continues to put himself in a position where he can lead people. As I see in Drew Brees, the eye test, real recognize real. And if you're out there and you're an athlete, real recognize real. He's a leader. That's the first thing that I want to say about Drew Brees. And he is very public about his relationship with Jesus Christ. He has even been criticized for his support of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes and other organizations that promote Christianity. And you know what? Jimmy cracked corn and he don't care. He's still repping Jesus Christ and what it is that he does. And so juxtapose that, although I still have respect for Candace Owens and appreciate some of the things that she does, Drew Brees has publicly come out, Whew, I suppose you didn't like that one. He publicly come out. He has publicly come out with a stance on his personal relationship with Jesus Christ, and he's been very supportive of Christianity. And so when Drew Brees speaks, I just want to let you guys know I listen. Last week, he came out with some comments, and I'll just read a little bit about Drew Brees and then bring you up to date on why it is that we're talking about Drew Brees today. He was born in January 15th, 1979. He's a quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. He's had a successful college career at Purdue and has become one of the most decorated players in NCAA history. After tearing his ACL at the age of 17, he was wondering what was the purpose of his life. As he faced other trials, such as tearing his shoulder in 2005, he maintained that those setbacks only strengthened his relationship with God. In June 3rd, 2020, which brings us now up to date, there's a lot that you can read about Drew Brees, one of my heroes. During the George Floyd protest, Drew Brees told Yahoo that he stood by his 2016 opinion that kneeling during the national anthem was disrespect to the flag, and stood by his 2016 opinion that kneeling during the national anthem was disrespectful to the flag and to the United States of America. That was a controversy that broke out last week when Drew Brees made those statements. The next day, June the 4th, he comes back with an apology. What changed in a day? Well, what changed is Drew Brees had some real serious conversations with his teammates who said, you've reached a measure of tone deafness. Nobody was talking about the flag. Nobody was talking about that being an issue why people were kneeling. The reason why people were kneeling is a direct result of the things that now everybody is seeing that have happened in our country systematically. George Floyd, Trayvon Martin, Breonna Taylor, Michael Brown, the names just go on and on. And so Drew Brees was confronted by some of his teammates. Well, he came back the next day, and it's all over the internet. You can see it for yourself if you want to. Just YouTube it if you haven't seen it before. But Drew Brees gave a very passionate, looking into the camera apology and said that I was wrong. I should not have said what it was that I said. And I'm sorry that I hurt many people that were out there, and I'm going to make some changes in my life. To all his credit, he showed the posture of someone who is actually a Christian, who recognizes when they do wrong, They take responsibility for the wrong that they've done. They take responsibility to redress that to those in whom they have harmed and hurt in the process. And Drew Brees, to my opinion, just even grows in his stature in terms of being a leader, as being one who's a Christian voice that we can listen to. Not because he got everything right, not because he was perfect, but because he was willing to admit his mistakes. And to the degree that it stretched out over social media, the comments that he made those same comments so that they would reach to the people. So enter what I would consider to be, come on, banner, get on up there, Drew Brees and white on white crime. Ooh, man. There are some people who take undue delight in black on black crime. Let's get all the black people to argue amongst themselves and be divided, and we're not making any progress on this. And then we can go focus on something else. Ooh, this is white on white crime right here. When I say white on white crime, why do I mention white on white crime? Because his harshest critic was the president of the United States. I don't know why this show doesn't just get censored and just banned. I have spoken more about the president of the United States. Let's pray for the president right now. We're going to stop and pray for the president because I'm going to talk about the president. Heavenly Father, I just pray that you would help the president to be wise. He has done some things that are incredibly foolish, but I'm not the person that's going to help him in that unless he calls and asks me to do it. In fact, your people who are praying for him and asking, Lord, that he have wisdom in the way that he rules, that he have courage in the way that he rules. We know that there's a lot of issues and a lot of things that America faces. There's a lot of things that he does that we don't even know about that he has done that are honorable and they're noble. And so help us, Lord, not to focus on the things that are so public and are so egregious, but instead to find the areas where we can encourage him and to find the areas wherein we can be supportive of what it is that he does. And I do genuinely mean this, and I do pray that you would help me to find ways to do that even on this show, to talk about encouraging things that he has done that have brought this nation together. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. So why I mentioned the president of the United States is that he was critical of Drew Brees and says that he should not have apologized for what he said, that he should have doubled down on his comments, which if you remember back in 2016 when this whole national anthem, flag kneeling, Colin Kaepernick controversy came out, it was Colin Kaepernick who was saying we are fed up in America with the treatment of African Americans, and we will not stand for this anymore. And so peacefully, I will take a knee and encourage other people to stand with me or kneel with me during the time of the national anthem. Not because of our lack of appreciation or support for the military, but it is a statement to our country that there is something that needs to change. Now, Colin Kaepernick looked like a goat, and the president hijacked that issue and made it completely about the flag when it was never about the flag. Drew Brees, a white man by all standards, I don't know what his heritage is. I don't have that on my screen here. If anybody wants to go back and do a DNA test and find out he's Cherokee Indian or part this or part that, you can go and do that on your own time. But Drew Brees, who is a white man in our culture, responded back to the president, telling him what the president should have already known. This was never NEVER, capital, all cap, never about protesting our troops or wanting to besmirch our nation or all the different things that cause the president of the United States to talk about players who kneel as being SOBs. Now, there are kids who are watching this show, so I won't spell that out. Kids, if you want to ask your parents what that means, the president said something that was very rude about many of the African American players in the football league, National Football League, and something extremely derogatory with his speech. Drew Brees comes back and says these words to the president. And I think we need to hear him. I'm actually going to slow down. I traditionally talk pretty quickly, but I'm going to slow down with these words from Drew Brees because we need to hear them. He apologized and then came back to the president and said these words. We did this back in 2017, and regretfully, I brought it back with my comments this week. We must stop talking about the flag and shift our attention to the real issues of systemic racial injustice, economic oppression, police brutality, and judicial and prison reform. We are at a critical junction in our nation's history. If not now, then when? When we as the white community need to listen and learn from the pain and suffering of our Black communities, we must acknowledge the problem and identify the solutions and then put this into action. The Black community cannot do it alone. This will require all of us. Those are the words of Drew Brees, and I love those words. Why? Because I'm trying to promote white on white crime? No. In fact, this conversation between Drew Brees and the president crystallizes something that Drew Brees was able to internalize that I believe many people in white America have not been able to internalize. What is this all about? People are asking, well, what's the definition? What do Black people in this country want? I don't understand why all this is going on. Can somebody please define for me what the goals are? And it has been said time and time and time and time again, but white America has tone deaf to the actual discussion of what this has all been about. Now, the church is horrifically lagging way behind, but we'll deal with them. Only God can help them. That was a sound effect.
You gotta speak up.
Yeah, I gotta speak up. Well, let's turn it up louder.
You gotta speak up.
What do Black people want? I don't understand why all this protest. I don't understand where all this frustration comes from. These are just lazy people. And I do, just in the context that it was given, it was not derogatory. But I did receive some comments this last week that were saying, I'm so confused about all this and why there's people in the streets that are rioting. What I see is a bunch of lazy people who need to get to work and they need to stop tearing stuff up. And I know that that view is out there. And the way that these people said this was not derogatory to me. It was a conversation that I'm having. I'm having these kind of conversations with people so that I can work them to this point of understanding. Good friends of mine, trusted friends of mine, people in whose homes I would stay in and I would let my kids play with, and I just honor them in but they have honest questions and concerns. Looks like a bunch of lazy people who need to be at work, who are rioting and tearing things up, and I just cannot stand lazy people. What is all of this about? Drew Brees crystallized in his statement what this is all about. Let me go back and read the part of what Drew Brees said. Drew Brees said it. He defined it probably the best that I've ever heard anybody define it for white America, what this is all about. We must stop talking, these are Drew Brees' words, about the flag and shifting our attention to the real issues. So what Drew Brees acknowledges is there are ways that we can parlay this conversation, that we can shift the focus of the conversation to make it be what it never was about. And then we can get lost in those issues. I had some people that actually told me yesterday, I hate writing. I'm out. I'm done. I don't want to have a conversation. And it almost came with the tone of, I don't even like Black people now because of the fact that I've seen them every dang day tearing stuff up on in people's businesses, tearing up homes, tearing up streets, blocking traffic. They were so frustrated that this issue to them has become about the riots. Listen to what Drew Brees says. And if you don't want to listen to Black people, listen to white people. We must stop talking about the flag and shifting our attention to the real issue of systemic racial injustice. Ding! Where are my sound effects? Man, come on! This is supposed to be a professional show, and I have no sound effects. All right, first one, systemic racial injustice. That shouldn't take a long time to figure out, that there has been a disproportionate way that Black people and minorities have been viewed in this culture, because Black people and minorities come in, one, in a minority status, two, through a system that doesn't allow the equality that takes place. You know that 85 to 90% of the wealth is populated in about 5 to 10% of the population. So there's a small upper crust of our society that can be considered to be rich. There's a large middle class, and there's a large under that class. I don't even know what you want to call that class, but these are some of the concerns that people in that upper echelon who make policies and make decisions have been willing to ignore, because after all, it doesn't affect them. Systemic racial injustice. Come on, Drew Brees, talk to us. Economic oppression. I hit the wrong button. I'm sorry. I did not mean to hit the idiot button. Economic oppression, police brutality, and judicial and prison reform. Look at what I'm wearing on this show. I've got my Insanity of God bracelet. This is Nick Ripken. If you haven't read that, Jesus is worth it. If you haven't heard my song, Jesus is still worth it, even if you haven't heard the song. But who is Joe D. Martin? The Joe D. Martin story.org. I'm wearing this because there's a man who represents many men who have exhausted all of their rights of appeal and who are serving prison sentences. This man for 23 years for a crime that he did not commit. Why do I say he did not commit it? I'm not the judge and I'm not the jury, but there was no DNA evidence and there was nobody that was actually a witness to the crime. And in many cases, if you've read Just Mercy and other books that are out there, seen other documentaries that are out there, seen that movie, you know that there's tons of people who have been exonerated and tons of people who are still yet to be exonerated for crimes that they did not commit. This is disproportionate in the African American community. People who are picked up on the suspicion that they have committed a crime, that they have done something that's wrong. That's injustice. To take somebody's life away from them, to put them in prison. And therefore, when it comes back to the 13th Amendment, we can go back and talk about that's a long conversation. But there's people who literally do not know that disproportionately, there's a lot of African Americans who are in prison who have not actually been put in prison by any type of evidence, but a suspicion or a culture that is easy to convict them, or by juries that most certainly would convict them by the color of their skin. And that's a long conversation, but Drew Brees knows that we need to have that conversation. Economic oppression, police brutality, judicial and prison reform, and it goes on and on. We are at a critical junction in our nation's history, Drew Brees says. If not now, then when? Drew Brees, I'm so proud of you this morning that I'm going to give you the customary honorary dolphin sound to show my solidarity with you, Drew Brees, as a brother in Christ, as a man who has spoken the truth. You get the dolphin of plenty. All right, let me go to some comments this morning. Comments. Oh man, got some folks that have been on the show for a while. People have been telling Drew Brees about the issue for 4 years. Oh man, love it. Love the comments that are coming in there. Yes, Nick Ripken, he is great. We need to get Nick Ripken on the show at some point. So we are cruising right along here, and I'm, as it says here, 33 minutes into the show. So let me deal with Black Lives Matter after I let us breathe for just a second. Breathe, people. Okay. Do you guys want, here, there's about a 10-second delay here, but do you guys want a children's song this morning to let us breathe? Or do you want one of the Erskin classics? Or do you want something you just want me to pick? Because I've got a number of things that I'd love to pick from here. But since this is the Erskin Music Show and it's about audience interaction, let's have the audience interact with what's going on here. And you tell me what you want to see as a video come up here. I got Do What You Gotta Do. I got Merry Go Round. I've got Only Love Remix. I've got Made in the Image of God. Come on, people. Talk to me. What you want to? All right. Be careful with absolute statements. Yes, come get me. Absolute statements. Always, never. It does create some dramatic appeal. Always, never. Did Drew Brees say always or never? Did I say always, never? I probably said always or never. Sorry. Anyway, okay, one of the kids' songs. Let's get a kid song in here, and then we will come right back. I will be sitting here during kids' songs, trying to figure out how to read, making my English teachers proud of me, that I can actually read and that their efforts were not wasted. And all of those weird books that you had me read, AP Honors English, they're coming back to help these days. This is Made in the Image of God.
We were made in the image of God. Every man, woman, boy, and girl. We were made in the image of God. God so loved that it changed the world. We can change the world. In the beginning, when God made people, He made a boy, He made a girl, gave us dominion over creation. gave us dominion over creation, told us to go into all the world. We were made in the image of God. Every man, woman, boy, and girl. We were made in the image of God. God so loved that it changed the world. We can change the world. Made in the image we were. Made in the image. Made in the image we were. Made in the image. I am fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of God. I am fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of God. Yes, I am fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of God. Yeah, we were made in the image of God. Every man, woman, boy, and girl. We were made in the image of God. God so loved that it changed the world. We can change the world. Image we were. Made in the 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 image.
Yes. I saw some of you guys out there doing the dance. Oh man, there's some people who don't want to do the dance. I love it. That's that's great. For all you kids at heart out there, I am so glad that you guys are enjoying that song as much as I'm enjoying that song. So we were made in the image of God. That children's song is due to be released, I guess, everywhere in the world on June the 12th, coming up here very quickly. But we released it last week. As you guys know, Yancey was on with me from Yancey Ministries. And we're just excited to let people know that a lot of this is about the image of God. How can we treat people who are made in the image of God in ways that God would not prescribe or that God would not appreciate or approve? And so I'm going to give myself the customary, and I don't know who makes this app here, but I am almost convinced this is one of my favorite preachers by the name of Alistair Begg, who is making this sound effect. And so every time I hear it, it makes me laugh. But for those that say that I overspoke and used the very philosophically inappropriate language of always and never, that's correct. It's a logical fallacy there. I'll just give myself my Alistair Begg comment for the day.
You are an idiot.
I love that sound effect. All right, so I'm going to use that for myself today. Let's get to Black Lives Matter and a couple of other comments there. Yeah. Thank you guys so much. I love the fact that you guys love that song. Let's get to Black Lives Matter for just a second. Black Lives Matter claims their aspiration. Let me take this off the screen here for just a second. Claims their aspirations from the Civil Rights Movement, the Black Power Movement, and the 1980s Black Feminist Movement, and also the Pan-Africanism, anti-apartheid movement, hip-hop, LGBTQR, STPRL, I can't even read all those letters over there, social movements, and the Occupy Wall Street. Several media organizations have referred to the Black Lives Matter as the new civil rights movement. Some of the protests, however, distinguish themselves from the older generations of Black leadership, such as Al Sharpton, by their aversion to middle-class traditions such as church involvement. That's a key there. Democratic Party loyalty and respectability politics. Political scientist Frederick C. Harris, has argued that the group characterized by the civil rights organizations like Jesse Jackson's Rainbow or Push Coalition and Al Sharpton's National Actions Network are not a part of the Black Lives Matter movement. And so there's some shifting of the ground here. And what I want to say here is the Black Lives Matter movement is not your grandpa's civil rights movement. It is not a Jesse Jackson movement. It is not an Al Sharpton movement, although you'll see those guys still come out of hiding from time to time. And I won't do black on black crime, but I've got some serious concerns. I've got serious concerns about Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, and that's not what I want to do on this show. I want to deal with Black Lives Matter because there are some people who are out there saying things to me like, is Black Lives Matter actually a movement? I actually had some of my white brothers ask me, oh, we didn't know that Black Lives Matter was a movement. I don't even really know where to start. Like, there's so much information that's out there. I couldn't even put all of it in this show because we'd spend all of our time talking about the history, the roots, the organizations, as I said there, civil rights movement, black power movement, black feminist movement, Pan-Africanism, anti-department, hip-hop, LGBT, Occupy Wall Street. There's all of these different entrails. It's a hashtag movement, which basically means that in order to galvanize support for the movement, you get people who have an affinity for those type of things, and you organize them by use of social media. Amazing. There's groups that are out there who are using social media to gain prominence, and groups that are out there that are using social media to get their message across, and groups that are out there who are using social media to galvanize and network people together in a way that actually moves them forward. Wait a minute. I was told in the church that we weren't supposed to use social media to get anything done. What? Wait a minute. These guys. What? You mean you can use social media in a way that can bring people together around a cause, and you can communicate your message, and you can get things done? Listen, I know there's a lot of people out there who are critical of Black Lives Matter. I have some serious concerns. In fact, they're disavowing church people actually to even really be a part of the Black Lives Matter movement. Tells me everything pretty much and more that I need to know about Black Lives Matter. However, I'm watching Black Lives Matter get stuff done that the church has not been able to get done. I just say it's a sad day for me. It's kind of like that pie in the face. It's kind of like that going back to Alistair Begg.
You're an idiot.
I've been telling people for years the issues that are out there, they can only be solved by Jesus Christ. I believe that truly. I believe that strongly. I will go to my grave. I will go to the Lord, to heaven, telling people that these problems can only be solved by Jesus Christ. What's the solution? I tell people ardently and passionately and fervently the kind of community that they're looking for, the kind of community where white and black can come together, rich and poor, disenfranchised, all those can come together, is in fact the church of Jesus Christ. And that's what he gave us. Upon this rock, I will build my church, and not even the gates of hell will prevail against it. I'll be preaching to people about the power of the church to create change in people's lives.
You're an idiot.
Well, I say that partly because I like that sound effect, but secondly, because Black Lives Matter has done something that the Church of Jesus Christ would not do. Listen to my words very closely, because you are listening to my words. Those of you who are telling me about my fallacies here, listen to my words. Black Lives Matter has done something that the Church of Jesus Christ, the actual true and living church, would not do. This is so frustrating to me, because I wanted to get on here and say some very critical things, some very heartfelt things that are my concerns about the Black Lives Matter movement. When I was at the rally that we had in Nashville a week ago, I literally told Justin, it's a good thing I can't get to the front, because I want to go and snatch the microphone out of their hand and tell them, sit down. You guys are so divisive in the way that you speak about things, and you're so inappropriate in the way that you're approaching this. But they get freedom of speech, and they didn't invite me to come up and say anything. And so I would have completely been out of order, but I have some just absolute frustrations with Black Lives Matter. And if you're a follower of Jesus Christ, if you're a brother in Jesus Christ, if you're a sister in Jesus Christ, and you're studying and you're learning about what Black Lives Matter, the underpinnings of what they represent and how they've gone about doing things, you would have some very serious concerns about Black Lives Matter. The nomenclature of it is all wrong. The divisiveness of it is all wrong. But they got this one right. Oh, they got this one right. So much so that all of the stuff that the media is bringing out there, they're the media. So you see the riots that are out there, and you see people who are against Black Lives Matter because of the rioting. But actually, for those of you who are on media, you don't have to look too hard to find how Black Lives Matter has galvanized a lot of communities, and how they've come out and they've expressed love for their community, how they've come out peacefully. You can find riot videos. And if you want to make this issue about the riots that are out there and how Black Lives Matter is causing riots, you can do that. That's spin. I see through it. I see through this camera. I see those of you who are out there who are trying to make this about Black Lives Matter causes riots. Okay, we're done with them. We don't have to learn anything about them. We don't have to know anything about them. But I've seen so many videos out there where Black Lives Matter has brought black, white, rich, poor people together for solidarity for such a time as this. I'm almost crying. I am almost crying because that's what the Church of Jesus Christ was supposed to be doing. Where were we? And for the kids, hide the kids for just a second. I know this is a family show, but hide the kids for just a second. I'll be done with this show in just a second. I won't leave this up there very long. But here's my response to Black Lives Matter. Here's what I want to say about Black Lives Matter today. Pay very close attention. Hide the kids for just a second. This is a family show, I know, but hide the kids for just a second. This is Black Lives Matter in reference to the churches of Jesus Christ. You know what Black Lives Matter essentially said? Church, we don't need you to come and get on your self-righteous high horse about what it is that we need to do. We need to actually go out. We need to actually change our communities. We need to actually go out and be in the streets, not just hiding in our churches. We need to actually go out and be in the political process. We need to go be in City Hall. We need to go be a leavening agent in this culture, in this society, if we're going to ever get anything done. If we keep listening to you in the church who are not doing anything except navel introspection, criticism, and not doing anything except hiding in your buildings, we're not going to ever get anything done. Black Lives Matter, to me, is annoying. Not so much because of all the underpinnings and all the different, what I believe to be racist things that they represent, but Black Lives Matter, to me, is critical because Black Lives Matter is a referendum on our discipleship. And I've told pastors this all last week. I'll continue to tell pastors that if you're a pastor and you're criticizing Black Lives Matter, it's probably because you weren't engaged in the process of discipleship and discipling those young black people who are out there in the streets. You weren't in the process of discipling in those communities where there were black people because that wasn't your concern. It wasn't your issue. You were hiding. You were doing something else. Oh, it was a political hot button. I didn't have time for that. I'm so busy in pastoral ministry. All those different weak, tired, cowardly excuses that you were giving for why you couldn't be a part of the community and change the community that you were in. Black Lives Matter. You can read it on there. I'm not going to say it. It's a kid show. Black Lives Matter is a referendum on your leadership, churchman, church leader. It's a referendum on your discipleship. Who were you discipling in the community? Now, I know there's brothers out there like Eric Mason, whom I disagree with some of the things that he has said, but there's a great deal, many more things that he has said and he has done, and other black leaders around this country and other inner city leaders and other people who are not in the inner city but have a concern for their city and are involved in the inner city who are doing a great job. I would like during this time for those voices to rise. Why do we have the same tired, weak, ineffective, hypocritical voices that speak up and stand at a time like this? They don't represent the church. It's the people who are out in the streets. It's the people who are out there grinding. It's the people who are out there getting sweaty in their community. The ones who are experiencing loss in their community, getting their building and their things broken in their community. Those are the ones who need to be talking to us about how to change the community because they're actually out there doing it. And you know what? I think it's incredibly racist to look at somebody's friend list and say, well, if you don't have X amount of friends that are black or X amount of friends that are white or X amount of friends that are anything, then you're not a part of the movement. That's incredibly racist. But wait a minute, for just a second. If you don't have any black friends and you don't have any diversity in your life, please don't try to stand up and lecture to everybody about what they need to do. Am I absolutely clear about this? This show will be done in a week and a half in its present form. And hopefully this will be archived enough so that people will be able to see what it is that I said. Because if you're inviting me to your school, if you're inviting me to your program, if you're inviting me to your church, you just need to know a little bit about the guy that you're inviting. I'm sometimes shocked. I'm surprised. I'm stunned. People will invite me to come to their organization to be a part of their group. And I'm just like, I don't think they really know what it is that I'm about to do here. I'm going to play some awesome music. And that's part of the introduction here. But I'm also going to say something about Jesus Christ and the fact that he's the one that can change. And the reason why we have as our moniker Strengthening Ministries is because there's a lot of weak ministries out there that need a voice. They need support. They need encouragement to be able to go forward. They need to have block parties, and they need to invite someone like me that can entertain in a block party and connect with the audiences there. God uniquely equipped me to be able to do those things, to build bridges. And that's why, as sad as it is for me to say, I'm not part of a church that does these things. I've had to go it alone to some extent and create a ministry that is not launched out of a church. It's a ministry that the Lord launched out of my heart and out of our family's heart, because I couldn't find a church that would send me as a missionary to go and do these things. Couldn't find a church that would have this kind of vision. And I know that makes us look bad, but I'm trying to be part of the change. I'll get this off the screen. Sorry about that. But I just wanted you to know I feel very strongly about Black Lives Matter. I'm so conflicted about Black Lives Matter because I want to be against them. You know, their doctrine of man, their doctrine of God is all jacked up. You just read about Black Lives Matter. I'm so conflicted because they've gotten so many things done that the Church of Jesus Christ should have gotten done, could have gotten done. And if we weren't so busy navel introspecting and getting our heads in our rear end, we would have gotten done. And this would be about the change that people see in our communities. And so now what do we do as a result of this? What do we do now? Well, it's time for the church to wake up. I would say this: if you don't know who Black Lives Matter is, if you don't know who some of the people and the figures that are out there are, just take a little bit of time and do some research. It seems like you guys are on social media all day anyway, so you might as well figure out who the people are and who the players are and what you need to educate yourself so that you know what's going on, so that you know who Colin Kaepernick is and how he's used in this discussion, and so that you know what it is that you're talking about when you make statements. Listen, I've heard that Black people are lazy. I've heard that Black people are just tearing things up. I've heard that there's a lot of anger and, you know, hypocrisy out there when Black Lives Matter will talk about one issue, but then when other Black people are killed, like police officers and people who are not deemed part of their movement, how hypocritical they are. But let's learn our issues. Let's get ourselves together, people out there, so that we're not talking crazy. I can endure your comments. I'm a big boy. I can endure your comments, and I can listen to a lot of racist things that are said to me, and I've had to listen to a lot of racist things because I don't hold it against you. Ignorance is not the last bastion of what I'm going to judge a person by. Jesus can forgive me for my sins, and I can forgive you for your sin of just ignorant racist things that have been said to me. But at the same time, I don't want you to continue to stay ignorant. Go learn about these things. Go learn about systemic injustice that's taken place. The church, unfortunately, has been one of the biggest deniers of systemic injustice in our country. And as I've said before, the institutional church, in which I do not believe the church is an institution, I believe it's an organization, an organism, excuse me. But the institutional church in America has been one of the most racist institutions in all of American history. That's not even hard to trace that out. All the discrimination in our organizations. I've literally been on concert tours before where Christian leaders, renowned Christian leaders, have told me, yeah, we don't really like private schools. We got an issue with private school. And I'm like, why don't you like private school? They're like, because the private schools, at least in our area, they were created because people didn't want to go to school with Black kids. And so all those Christian private schools that are out there were created because they were racist and they didn't like Black people. And so now these Christian schools start popping up all over the place. Private school becomes a big thing. Homeschool becomes a big thing because if I'm zoned for a public school where there's Black people, I ain't going there. So this is deep. And this has been a long problem. And this has been, as some of the comments, let me put this up here. Some churches. But you know, there's a whole lot of churches that are those some churches. A whole lot of those churches that are the some church. Now, when I say that, you do know that the church is not in a majority position in our culture. Of those who claim Christianity, the actual churches that have a biblical foundation and they have a biblical practice, orthodoxy and orthopraxy, is actually quite low in our country. Most people are not believers. Most churches out there struggle mightily either on their orthodoxy or their orthopraxy. You can watch American Gospel if you want to see more about that. So I don't even really believe that there's that many churches in America anyway. So yes, the true church obviously is going to have orthodoxy and orthopraxy, and we could talk about what is a true church and what is not a true church. But yeah, there are some churches out there who actually do something about their community and loving their city. That's why I had last week on the shirt that said Love Natomas. My good brothers and friends out there in Sacramento, California, and churches that I work with out there who are actually loving their city and doing a good job of it. This has been the Erskin Music Show. you're going to get a chance to see a video as you go out. Hope you guys think and pray about some of the things that I said, and just recognize that it's God's grace that has transformed me. God's grace can transform you as well. And let's continue to go out and share with people. You may not have a large influence of people that you talk to on a daily basis. You may not have multicultural relationships, but as you begin to develop those things, and as you begin to look into how you can develop those things from an individual basis all the way to a church basis, let's continue to trust God to do what only he can do and trust Jesus in the process. It's been the Erskin Music Show, and Monday is a delight for me because I get to do all of the talking and not have a guest. But on Wednesday and Friday of this week, we will have 2 more guests that are coming up. I'll announce those. And again, announcements before I get out of here is this is the final week, full week of the Erskin Music Show. And then we're going to switch to a summer schedule and do a weekly show a little bit later on. Friday, you'll want to note this. Friday at about 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, we're going to be doing the Extravaganza online concert. And so I'm preparing for that even as we speak. I got to get off, get my guitar tuned up. I'll be in the studio this week working on some new things. I got a couple of new songs that I'm going to be unveiling, maybe if I can learn how to play those this week. And there's some exciting things that are coming up. And so I have a concert on Friday, 7:30 Central Standard Time. And I'd love to see all of you guys there. We're going to live stream like nobody's business on that concert. And the technology that I'm working with, if you think StreamYard and this broadcast is amazing, wait till you see that concert on Friday. It's the Erskin Music Show, the Monday edition.
I'm a self-made man with my well-laid plans, and I was taught to do it on my own. But I've tried and failed, and I've been derailed. From dust you picked me up, and now I know. Grace made the first move. Oh, what have I to fear? Victory is here. It'll